before, the two-time Toyota Racing Series champion, about how difficult these FT50 cars are to launch from the start. And watch the start closely, because anyone who gets a false start could be pinged, and that 10-second penalty could be very frustrating.
Indeed.
Yep. Count it back over 20 laps.
Yeah, well, Clement Novalak's obviously got a good start in mind, because he was off out of there like a robber's dog. So maybe he's now trying to warm the tyres up a little bit. He doesn't want to get back to the grid too soon and let the tyres cool down. He wants to make sure that the grid is or the cars are following him reasonably closely when he comes around that last turn. But nonetheless, you have to work these tyres to get them going. The track is nice and warm. The tyres are already a little bit warm, but they're not going to really kick in until maybe 2.5 laps into the race. So it's still Marcus Armstrong with 210 points, the man who leads the series after a very good opening round at Mike Pirro Motorsport Park in Ruapuna in Christchurch last weekend. Robert Schwartzman, his teammate from Russia, second with 194. Richard Vachur's got 142 points, back in third place. Then James Poole from Singapore out of Great Britain in fourth with 139. Clement Novalak in the top five, 132. This is a big day for him. You know, he's a young rookie and did a superb job in qualifying. Won both of those, except for Marcus Armstrong with that last one for the Spirit of the Nation. You can't get 53.098. You can't get much more of a rookie than him. This is his fourth race in a single-seater car, so that's as much of a rookie as you can get.
So getting set now, 20 laps. Who's going to get away to a good launch? How are they going to get round that first corner? The teams have done their stuff. They've done the data, they've done the strategy, they've done the practice, they've done the qualifying. Now it's time to get the red lights. First, green lights. Racing. Did we get a jump start there?
Don't think so. I think that was a perfect start. Not a good one from Novalak. He's now going to get a little bit swamped. He could actually end up in fourth position here, so he's got to get his elbows out going around that corner.
So they're going to be too wide as they go around the big loop for the first time here at Teretonga. They're going to line up through the Castrol corner, then through the S's. What a great sight as they sweep through.
Yeah, for sure. Got a good start, a really good start. Novalak unfortunately did exactly what we said. Just let the car stall off the revs a little bit, just enough to slow him down and miss the jump on the start.
Vachur, Novalak, Schwartzman, Armstrong, Poole, Cordia, Leach, Das, Harker, Ming, Malaysia, Yardley, Cockerton. We'll see how they line up coming out of the elbow for the first time, and then the first race down the big long drag strip, 990 metres.
Schwartzman is going to try to get closer to, obviously, to Vachur here, but he's now got to worry about his teammate, Marcus Armstrong, right up behind him, getting a drag, trying to pull out, but then Vachur just looks in his mirrors and sees Schwartzman just drift across the track, making sure that Armstrong can't take that little bit of road.
Vachur still out in front. Schwartzman under attack from Marcus Armstrong, who's moved up into third place now, number 9. 17 is Novalak, who's starting to regather himself after that start. James Poole sitting in for the top 5. Brendan Leach back in 7th at the moment, followed by Reid Harker, Das, Ming, Yardley. Cockerton's made up a spot from the young French driver, Charles Malaysia. Speed at the moment, 58.8. Remember, the qualifying time's around about the 53, so they're just warming into it. Down the start finish line for the second time. And it's still Vachur. Schwartzman just broken that gap as Poole pulls out, tries to make a move over Novalak.
No, he's still hanging on around the outside. No, it's not a good place to be on the outside around there. We've seen a few cars go off in the Thursday test.
So just starting to give themselves a bit of a break. And Richard Vachur, he's the young Dutch driver, the Flying Dutchman, number 7. Very good experience around here. And he's really jumped them at the moment. Opened up almost a second gap from Robert Schwartzman, the young Russian, who's been very quick, very consistent, and Marcus Armstrong. We knew that those top 3 were going to have their own little wee private battle in the front of the field. Then we've got the next bunch, Poole, Novalak, Cordia, Leach.
Well, these first 3 are now going to benefit from going round. James Poole, incidentally, coming really close. Gosh.
Wheel-to-wheel racing as they head down the main straight into the sweeper, round the loop. Oh, Novalak just holding on to the inside line. Pulls him behind. Wisely so too.
That would have been close down there. Down the straight here, if you're following another car, it's all very well. You get very close to him, but as you start to turn into turn one, you get the wash, as they call it, from the car in front over the front wings, and you lose a bit of downforce on the front. Much the same in a very minor form as they do in Formula One. As soon as the air disappears from your front wing, you tend to understeer wide, and that's why you can be on the outside, all right, if the guy is cooperative, but following him and then going into the turn is a completely different matter.
17 laps to go. They're starting to pick up the pace. Last time was 54.2. This time 54.1. So really starting to warm up to it. Those tyres getting the temperature up now. Field just spreading out. Everyone getting a bit of racing room.
And Cockerton's moved up 2 off the back. He's got past Malaysia and Yardley. So he's got a bit of ground to make up in front of him, though. He's got a bit of work to do. They're trying to get past those 2 cars. Has taken him away from the back of the main pack.
Brendan Leach, for the local fans, he's right in the middle of a dogfight here, right in the middle of the field in 7th place, number 86, the yellow ITM car. As they sweep around the back part of the circuit. Number 11, Taylor Cockerton there, did the drive around Sepang in the Audi test. Hopefully that's going to pay big dividends for him, one of the young Kiwis in the field.
Well, James Pull has got a little bit of a gap appeared in front of him now to Clement Novalak. So all that battling around turn 1 didn't do him any good in trying to get past him, and he's just lost a bit of aero once again going through the bendy bits. So he's going to have to remake his lap, basically. I see Brendan Leach is coming very close to the back of who's in front of him there, to Correa.
Now just keep an eye on number 9 here, Marcus Armstrong. He's just done a 53.8. He's the fastest man out there at the moment, and he's chasing down his teammate, the Russian teammate Robert Schwartzman, who's done a 54.071. And of course, Richard Bashaw still in front, 54.2, 54.1, so very consistent lap times. So the battle could be on for 3rd. They've still got time, 15 laps to go, so just 5 down, warming into it.
Lap record, of course, 53.1, so it doesn't look like they're going to approach that today. That's probably going to be, if the weather conditions are okay, probably tomorrow. But 20-lap race, the cars are going to get lighter and lighter towards the end. And they could get close to the lap record, I would imagine.
Robert Schwartzman obviously saw Marcus Armstrong just getting a bit too close. He's answered back with a 53.9, and so too is Vashaw now. So they're all really in the 53s, the top 3, 53.9, 53.8. Quickest lap still been Marcus Armstrong so far. That was lap 5. So these boys are really settled in. The next bunch are all doing 54s, except for Charles Malaysia, down to 55 seconds at the rear of the field. So it shows you, we talked a bit about close, exciting racing.
Yeah, Charles Malaysia at the back of the field there, it's a strange case really. He's just not done particularly well all day, whereas at Ruapuna he was right in the hunt. He seems to have taken a bit of a wrong turn, either in the setup of the car or his own personal setup of the car. He doesn't seem comfortable, he doesn't look comfortable as he's going around the track, and he clearly is not looking fast for some reason or another. Apparently he gets easily, his head goes down easily, so whether that's anything to do with it.
So number 7, Richard Vashaw, the young Dutch driver, very tall, long, lanky driver, but very, very fast and very, very consistent, sitting on the 53.8 at the moment. So he's found that race pace, and he's opened up a nice little cushion. In fact, Armstrong's about 1.5. So those top 3 have actually settled down and maintaining that same sort of distance. Number 4, Reid Harker, on screen at the moment, streaming live, coming out of the 86s. Had some very good pace in practice and in qualifying.
Yep. He's gradually getting better and better, getting into the car. His first season, of course, in these cars from the TR86s. So he's gradually getting very comfortable with the way of driving, being coached, of course, by Stephen Giles of Giles Motorsport, being coached all the time, telling him how to do things. So he's got a bit of a bright future in front of him. We've got, I think Vashaw is actually managing that gap in the front. I've no doubt that the engineer is onto him saying, okay, you've still got 1 second, 1.5 or whatever. This is the first race of the weekend. The biggest thing here is to make sure that the car gets to the second race of the weekend and then to the third. You don't want to put it in the wall and have a problem. I would imagine that his engineer is saying, yep, you're okay so far, just keep an eye on it. Whereas Marcus Armstrong in third place is probably trying really hard to catch up with his teammate. A bit of inter-team rivalry, and Schwartzman is, I'm not sure whether he'd be comfortable there, but he's probably keeping a big old eye on Marcus behind him.
Well, he's sort of like the beat in the team sandwich, isn't it? Because you've got Bashir and Armstrong have both been here, done that from last year. And the Russian rocks up, been very, very quick and say, well, anything you can do, I can do, even though I'm basically a rookie in this championship. Yeah,
and I would imagine that seeing as both of them are going back to the Ferrari Driver Academy and back to school and back to how you do it, there's going to be a bit of kudos about finishing higher than the other or winning the championship, the TRS championship, when they go back to Ferrari and say, yeah, I did it. Oh, by the way, he came second. They won't be forgetting that, will they?
No, and I think the other thing is also the fact that those three are all the podium place at the moment, the top three, and they're going to have their own little private battle about how they position themselves to make sure they stay in contention for the overall championship by maintaining their consistency lap after lap, track after track.
Yeah, I think we've seen that as well. Richard Bashir had a couple of technical problems, shall we say, in Ruapuna, and as soon as that happened, he slipped off the real contention, the very close contention. He's got a bit to make up. This is going to help, obviously, if he wins this race, but I don't know if Schwartzman is getting a tad closer. I'm not quite sure.
Halfway stage of the 20 lap at 10 laps gone, and one of the quick guys out there at the moment is Clement Novalak, who was the man who started on pole, got bogged down, got beaten up basically into that battle into the first corner. He's just come back with a 53.7, so he's starting to pick it up as well. Now that he's got some clear air, can settle down, calm down, and just go back to doing what he's learning, and that how to drive the FT50 and drive it really fast.
Yeah, he's just got to run his own race now, hasn't he? Simple as that. He's got some clear air in front and a whole bunch of clear air behind. So, yep, just run your own race and try and get points at the end of it.
All settling down into those 53.8 for Bashir, 53.6 for Schwartzman, 53.7 for Armstrong, Novalak as well. So your top four now. So Novalak's one of the guys who's come out of the blue and said, I want a piece of this. He's doing very well. He's in the top 5 of the championship going into this round. Pole position today, coming under a little bit of pressure, but he's handling at the moment and getting back into becoming a real contender. Don't forget, tomorrow they're going to be racing for 2 more races and racing for the Spirit of the Nation Cup. First trophy was won last week by Marcus Armstrong, who's going to take the second trophy this weekend, which is going to be tomorrow. Marcus Armstrong, remember, will be starting on pole for that race.
I think these 3 at the front, could include these 4 at the front, have kind of settled about where they are. The first 3, of course, driving for M2 competition. Novalak, Giles Motorsport, and then we've got James Poole, who's also M2 competition. And that team's battle is there's a bit of pride that goes on there as well. Certainly a bit of what's the word? Well, competition. Simple as that, really. But it's interesting that Stephen Giles Motorsport were let down by a couple of 3 drivers coming here. They suddenly, at the very last moment, well after Christmas, were unable to come here. So he was left with 2 rookies. Now Novalak has proved to be a very fast rookie, I must admit, with 2 rookie drivers. So all the teams got together and they agreed that the fastest lap of each team, each driver, would be made, the data would be made public to everybody else, every other team, so that they could share the data around a little bit, which I think is an incredibly fair, egalitarian thing to do with all the teams, so that everybody is in a competitive situation. They might want to regret that after a while, seeing as Novalak's come in here and getting all the data information as a rookie and he's just as quick. So yeah, they might want to rethink that later on. But he's doing so well. He's impressed me since the very first race.
Well, the Castrol Toyota Racing Series is now based at Hampton Downs. That's where the home base has been moved to. A very impressive setup there alongside the Toyota 86 cars. Where are all the teams basically based, spread out? Well,
Giles Motorsport is in Auckland generally, you could say, but he's in Tauranga now. Stephen Giles, M2 competition, Hamiltonish based. But some of them work out of the Toyota workshops as well when they're building cars at the beginning of the year. Victory Motorsport, Nelson. And MTech is Australia based. So it's, yeah, they're basically from all over the place, really.
But that's been another one of the great series features and success stories for the Castrol Toyota Racing Series into the 14th successive season now. It's created opportunities for young New Zealand drivers to use as a pathway to success overseas, but it also creates opportunities for Kiwis doing jobs.
Absolutely. We have had so many engineers come through the Toyota Racing Series and go on to jobs in Formula One and jobs in IndyCar and all that sort of stuff. So it's not only all about drivers, it's all about encouraging motorsport. Okay, the logo is finding New Zealand's next world champion, but that world champion could easily be an engineer, could easily be a technician of some sort or a data engineer. Driver, yeah, would be good. It obviously is what we're aiming at, to get a world champion driver. And in fact, there is one. Well, you know, Brendan Hartley and Earl Bamber, effectively. But if you look at Formula One, we haven't had a world champion yet through the Toyota Racing Series, but at least we've got a dog in the race now with Brendan there. And there's plenty of engineers up and down the pit lane. If you look in the pit lane here, a lot of the engineers have come from GP3, Formula 3 in Europe, Formula Renault, all sorts of things. They've come here to work with the teams here, and therefore encourage New Zealand engineers, mechanics to get on that train, their own personal train. If you can't drive, then get a job doing it.
Has it created opportunities for people to come back from overseas and Formula 3, Formula 4, or even Formula 1 to bring their knowledge and come back and do racing here and live at home?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Stephen Giles is the case in point. He was a McLaren chief mechanic for many years. Mark Pilcher, who's part of M2, he was on our A1 GP car and IndyCar. Jonathan Moorey still works overseas. He's the other half of M2. He works overseas in all sorts of races, Formula 2 and GP3. Yeah, you can go up and down the pit lane naming names, and they've all come from all over the world to do this. A lot of the guys have come back to New Zealand. It's their home time, and they come and... What else would you do if you got a few weeks off in the summer and you're a race mechanic? You come back here and work on the Toyota Racing Series, of course.
Of course you would. So... fantastic performance so far from the young Flying Dutchman, that is Richard Verschoor. He did a great job grabbing that lead and really dominating that process. And now he's about 3 or 4 laps away from picking up a win here at Teretonga.
Some experience driving these cars. He's going to go back to Formula Renault, which is a very similar car when he gets back to Europe. Very similar car to this. That's why he's here. Making sure that he can start the European season in some form. The front three have closed up a little bit there. I think maybe Schwartzman is making a bit of an attempt to get to Verschoor. I'm not certain of that. Certainly the gap has closed up. Whether it's Verschoor slowing down a little bit. His last time was 54.021, so he's out of the 53s now. Schwartzman 54.162 and Marcus Armstrong 53.958. So yeah, they're all quite similar, but on the road just closing up a little bit.
Richard Verschoor, he picked up the first win of the new championship, and of course Marcus Armstrong went back-to-back on Sunday morning, took out the Lady Wigram Trophy race, but now the Flying Dutchman has grabbed his opportunity. Just closing up a bit, aren't they? All three, the top three, with around about 2 laps to go now.
Well, Marcus Armstrong should be picking up a really good tow down the straight here, because he's got 2 cars in front of him a little bit. He's got to be careful of a little bit of the aero washout as he goes around turn 1, 2, 3. But it's going to help him quite a lot getting this tow down here. He'll be getting his eyes firmly fixed on Schwartzman in front, I think, now, and Novalak is closing up as well. Now, is it because Verschoor is slowing down more? 54.1 was his latest lap.
And Schwartzman's done a 54 flat, and compare that to Marcus Armstrong 53.8 and Clement Novalak at 53.6. So the guys in 3rd and 4th are certainly closing in on the guys who are 1st and 2nd at the moment. And what a time to do it after 20 laps and get down to basically 1 more lap to go.
If he makes a mistake, if any one of those 3 at the front make a mistake, Novalak's going to be on them. But if any one of the 3 at the front make a mistake, they're going to have mirrors and noses full of other cars.
Just talking to Taylor Cockett, and he's one of those guys. He said he felt a bit nervous about, you know, what it must be like to be leading at the front of the field. But he's one of those guys who wants that feeling, and now Richard Verschoor has certainly got that. He knows what it's like to be out in front, have that chance to take the checkered flag, but be driving in the rear view mirror, or just have the side mirrors and be aware of who's behind you. But at the moment he's still dominating the situation as they come down out of the brickyard through the elbow. The top four closing on each other. But they've done 19 laps. And it's Richard Verschoor, number 7. He's had a very, very good race. And it's checkered flag time to pick up his second win in the Castrol Toyota Racing Series. Robert Schwartzman, being very consistent, comes home in second place. And Marcus Armstrong will take out the other podium spot to maintain his lead in the championship.
Good race by Schwartzman. Got it on the start as we thought that. I think if Clement had been in front, got away properly, he would have stayed in front as well, because he was putting up the fastest lap for the last couple of laps there. So shame for him, but there you go. It's all part of the learning process.
The rest of the field, James Poole coming home in 5th. Juan Manuel Correa coming home in 6th. Brendan Leach in 7th. Reid Harker 8th. Cameron Duss in 9th. Kelvin Ming in 10th. Taylor Cockett in 11th. And car number 11, lucky number 11. Ryan Yardley in 12th and Charles Malacy in 13th. So a good performance there by Richard Verschoor, number 7 out of M2 Sport. And of course M2 competition. The Dutchman getting the win, the second win of the series for him. So he'll be moving up the table too and closing in that battle between himself, Robert Schwartzman, second in the race, second in the championship.